It's the most talked about media deal that hasn't happened yet. We're talking about the GE selling NBC Universal, its unit, to Comcast. My next guest says it's part of a bigger shift in the media world towards content and away from distribution. Now, Larry Kramer is a media veteran. He's the founder of MarketWatch, who was an advisor to CBS and also president of CBS Digital Media, and he's currently with Polaris Venture Partners. Larry, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Before we get into sort of the shift you were talking about, to content, tell me though, that what hasn't been talked about is the regulatory aspect of this. There's going to be some major regulatory hurdles.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting test of the new administration to see how they go after this. The regulatory looks will be on several fronts. The FCC, I think, will look at the anti-competitive issues, and antitrust will look at the anti-competitive issues. FCC has lots of things to look at. One of them is, will this mean somehow that Comcast would treat its own owned channels differently from its partner channels? They'll be concerned about that from the competitors of the cable networks that are owned.
So how would they get through that? Because that's a legitimate concern. I mean, well, of course you'd want to protect your own channels.
The regulators could set some restrictions or guidelines. Similar things happened when Time Warner did their cable deal, and there was concern that they would treat CNN more favorably than MSNBC. And I think so. There's a way to watch it. There's a way to prevent it. There are precedents. Okay. I think there's also some issues about change of ownership. If there's some of the franchisees, cable systems are franchised by cities who have in their clauses, in their contracts, the ability to possibly have the ability to get out of a deal if there's a change of ownership. And the question is, will this be considered a change of ownership or a material change in ownership? So that's kind of an issue. And I think the cable operators themselves are worried that the network people are worried that the cable guys might take NBC programming and put it onto the web, which would make it anti-competitive as well.
Well, then in the end, though, I mean, how do you think this deal will be structured, though, from the sources that you're talking to?
I think it will go through. I mean, I think it's going to be.
But how's it going to be structured, though? How is Comcast going to structure this unit?
Well, I mean, I think they break down a little bit. I think content goes under the NBC umbrella. They own cable. Comcast owns several cable networks themselves: Golf Channel, E, Style, and they're good, but they're not nearly as good as the NBC-owned cable operators are. So I think there'll be a content business that NBC runs. I think one of the most valuable assets here that comes to the whole picture are the libraries from both the NBC Universal and film and television. I think
so it's not so much the programs.
Well, the least attractive element of this probably is the network itself, the NBC network, which is kind of a bloated, a network, high cost operation, not very profitable, and the future of broadcast is going the other direction. Now, on the other side, Comcast is one of the most aggressive players in trying to do multi-platform broadcasting. So, in other words, have their shows appear on not just on cable, but on the internet as well, and other broadband platforms, wireless. And they're trying to, and they're very aggressively building a system where they can send out programs on advertising-supported programs on all of those platforms.
Now, Larry, it seems as if this deal is going to go through because we had word earlier that Vivendi has finally said, I think, we're going to sell the stake. Yeah,
Vivendi definitely wants to get rid of it. They could use the cash. They have a big telephone deal in Brazil.
But actually get rid of it,
Yeah, the IPO is, their only question was, could they get more money from an IPO and then the actual valuation that NBC and Comcast put on it. And the answer is probably no. The market's kind of choppy. But their biggest problem is they don't want to take a big write-off against their investment. They've already taken one, and that's a really tough thing to do, particularly in Europe.
But maybe unavoidable. I mean, take a look at what media assets have done.
The value is going to be set, and they have to live with it.
Okay, Larry, good to talk with you as always.